In honor of Tu BiShvat, the Torah compares a person to a tree when it says Ki Adam Eitz Hasada, that a person is like a tree. And I think the imagery of a tree is really profound for us in thinking about ourselves and the way we relate to ourselves and to the world around us. Because a tree starts at the center with the trunk of the tree, which is a solid, stable core. It's one entity, and it's kind of thick, and it's heavy, and it's strong. And it's very difficult to penetrate. The environment around it, the weather, the elements around it don't really influence or impact it in any way, really. It doesn't really change. It doesn't really vary over time. It's solid and stable and consistent. And as that trunk of the tree extends upwards, it branches off into branches. And those branches at the beginning are still only a few, and they're still pretty thick and pretty strong. They might sway with a very heavy wind, but not easily. And they're not impacted too much. They're not easy to cut down or to get rid of in any way. They don't change all that much, but they're a little bit more able to be impacted or influenced. And then those branches branch off into smaller branches, more numerable, and each of them thinner, each of them a little bit more flimsy and a little bit thinner and a little bit more able to be impacted by the wind blowing and by the weather and by things happening, able to be taken down, snapped off. And then those branches branch off even further, extending more outwards into smaller and smaller branches. And those branches become tinier and thinner, and they become twigs. And those twigs then are that which bear leaves and bear fruit. And those are constantly changing. The leaves change colors, they die, they fall off, they grow back. The fruit get picked, they fall off, they die, they grow back. And I think that this imagery is exactly accurate, exactly parallel to the way that we are as human beings. We have a core self. We have that trunk, which is solid. It's one entity. It's not super exposed to all the environments around us. It's rooted. It's that trunk of the tree, which is firmly planted on the ground. And then we extend outwards. As we extend outwards more into the world, we become more vulnerable to the forces of the world. And so we become thinner. We become more scattered. We are extended into multiple environments. We have family, we have work, we have driving in the street, we have all sorts of getting a cup of coffee, going to the store to buy something, needing to take care of something. We have all these ways that we're extended outwards and we become thinner and thinner. But it's in those extensions, in those outward reaches, that we bear fruit, that we bear leaves. And all of that becomes very vulnerable, very impacted by that which is around us. And it becomes many and it becomes extended. And that's where we can offer produce to the world. But it all has to start from that solid trunk. And then we come to the even more profound piece of the imagery of the tree as a way of thinking about the human being, Ki Adam Eitz Hasada. Because all of that is that which we see above the ground. But the real life of the tree, the real sustenance, the real nurturance of the tree is rooted beneath the ground. It's even deeper than anything we can see. It's that which is invisible to the human eye standing above ground. But the roots of the tree that are deep, deep within the ground, that's really where the tree gets its life from. And that which is beneath the ground is untouchable. It's that which is not even impacted by the decisions we make. It's not impacted by any of the weather around us. It's not extended outward into the world. But it's that deepest part of ourself that we can't even fully comprehend or understand. And even though it's who we are, we don't fully know it because it's so deep and it's so mysterious. But it's the part of us that is unconditionally valued, unconditionally worthy of compassion and acceptance and love, and is loved and beloved by God. It's that deepest part of us, that there's an ahava she'ena tluya b'davar, a love that is not conditional to anything. It's not dependent on anything. It's that Hashem desires us and Hashem loves us in that deepest place. And what all the psychological research shows is that the paradox of the human being, of human behavior, human productivity, is that the more that we have self-acceptance, the more that we can engage in change, the more that we can love ourselves unconditionally, the more that we can produce on the outside. The more that we come to accept who we are, the more we're willing to enter those vulnerable spaces that we can actually produce fruit, we can produce leaves. And that construct of that which is buried deep within, that is untouchable, and then extends upwards into one solid trunk of self-identity, and then extends and expands further and further into more branches and more life and more places in the world, and can then offer something to the world. That is what we as human beings, ki adam eitz hasadeh, are blessed with the opportunity to try and engage to the very best of our ability.